Welcome to Champions Network TV, and tonight on your favorite channel, Champions Network TV, we welcome a thought leader and a passionate advocate for preparedness in the diaspora, Dr. Matiza. Welcome. With a wealth of experience, a heart for the community empowerment, Dr. Matiza brings us a powerful and eye-opening presentation entitled The Death Factor. In a world where distance from home often complicates life's most difficult moments, Dr. Matiza challenges us to confront the often avoided topic of death, not with fear, but with wisdom and preparation. Drawing from a real life diaspora experiences and practical solutions, he unpacks the financial realities of bereavement and the critical importance of planning ahead. Hosted by your favorite Mija, this conversation promises to be both enlightening and empowering. Get ready, get your pen and paper, ready to explore the truth behind the death factor. Discover how we, as a global community, can turn vulnerability into strength. Welcome, Dr. Matiza.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mija, for welcoming me on the platform. Welcome also to our listeners. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And to our listeners, we will give Dr. Matiza an opportunity to run us through what he has prepared for us. And if you have got any questions, you can put them in the chat box. Any contribution, they will be answered. And during the question and answer, if you want to speak to him directly, phone on the number shown on the screen. We will put it over to him to respond. But remember, subscribe to Champion Network TV. Put on the notification bell so that you don't miss when people like Dr. Matiza comes on the show. So it's now all over to you, Dr. Matiza.
Once again, thank you so much, Mr. Mija, for inviting me onto this platform and allowing me to talk to the market that matters most, the diaspora community, where I will unpack the diaspora death factor. I can start off by making this bold statement to say no one likes death. And whether that is true or false, but the truth is that people, by all means necessary, would want to avoid death. So, the answer to that question you will find is in 2 points. The yes part of it, where we are saying no one likes death, constitute about 90% of what people think. But there is also the no factor, where, of course, we have people mainly trained in the military field who would sacrifice to die in cases like suicidal bombing and all that. But largely, you find that 90% of the people do not like death. But this does not stop death from happening. Whether we like it or not, death will happen. And at times, it happens with some monotonous regularity. So in life, there are two things. Either you live long, that speaks to retirement, and retirement in itself needs to be prepared for. Or you don't live long, that then speaks to death. And again, death itself needs to be prepared. So these two variables, retirement and death, needs adequate preparation. And today, I will take you through the death factor with particular reference to the diaspora community. I would want to possibly start off by giving a brief definition of what we mean by the diaspora community. This is the community that then is comprising of people who moved away from their areas of origin, which we can refer to as the AU homes. And they moved to destinations all over the world, either outside Africa or within Africa. So basically, we are talking of people who have two homes here, where they came from and where they are staying. And one very common narrative about this is that they created distances away from their areas of origin into areas where they are staying now. With particular reference to this, let me possibly look at people who are in the UK and they are Zimbabweans. The distance between the UK and Zimbabwe is about 8,100 miles. And the distance between the US and Zimbabwe is about 9,460 miles. You agree with me, people, that such distances would require us to adequately plan for anything, including death itself. It requires us to plan more than those people who are back home. Should anything happen to us, either way, you just need to adequately plan for that. You will agree with me that these communities that we then create where we move to are communities that may allow us to work together and form possibly burial societies, possibly some kind of mechanisms where we would want to assist each other should death occur. But you agree with me that most of these efforts fall short of what we really want to happen. So let us look at the distance factor versus the cost. I personally believe in the persuasive sentiment that the further one is from the A home that I've talked about, the more money that is needed to manage funeral cost should death strike. Even if one chooses, I've at some point talked to people who would tell you that I may need to be buried here, I may need to be cremated. They talk about all those other things. But we are saying death in the diaspora, whether you want to be buried here in the diaspora or whether you would want to be cremated, all those processes does not make the need for money go away. There's no substitute for money in any death-related issue. You would need that money. So in short, as diasporians, we actually have a mammoth task, a mammoth duty to prepare for the death factor more than people who are back home. You will agree with me that because of the distances involved, the cost involved in diasporian deaths are very astronomical. I'll give you examples here. On average, it costs about 7,000 British pounds to repatriate a body from the UK to Zimbabwe. And it will cost between 7,500 to 15,000 US dollars to repatriate a body from the United States to Zimbabwe. What we are saying here is that generally these figures are out of reach for many of us. And what it means, therefore, is that we need to look at working with funeral assurance houses that are in the diaspora to prepare for this death factor. I personally recommend one house here, the Diaspora Insurance, which is a company that specializes in this. Diaspora Insurance trades as Destin Finance, and it is a company that diasporians all over the world can rely on, because diaspora insurance pays out a lump sum in case of bereavement for the people that a client would have covered, including those that are back home. So it has a facility where we can cover our relatives back home. Yes, we are in the diaspora, but that does not mean we have broken all relations with people from where we come from, especially against a background where these people are looking upon us should anything happen, possibly given the real situation on the ground back home. So let's agree here to say, guys, we are not in our areas of origin. where insurance may not be important. Here, by virtue of distance and the cost that are involved, we then need to embrace the idea of working with assurance houses to make life easier for us. I've often met people we have tried to argue. I remember I was talking to one client sometime who was saying, I can use my savings to solve the issue of bereavement should it arise. And I was trying to impress on this client to say, there's no wisdom in doing that. There is no wisdom in taking savings and bury them in the ground with the dead. My honest view on this one is to say savings are meant to create generational wealth, where you can invest in properties back home, where you can invest in other forms of businesses back home to create generational wealth and not to use for bereavement. So I argue here to say it's economically unwise to use savings towards bereavement when one can actually prepare for the death factor by working with the assurance houses, which allows someone to pay small amounts of money per month while assuring oneself of a large payout soon after qualifying your waiting periods should death occur. Let me put it this way. Working with assurance houses differs from bank savings in that, say, after 3 months, if one would have paid, for example, £100 only, one can benefit £15,000, which won't happen with bank savings. So entirely, I am saying here, yes, you can save with banks, but it would be unwise to save for bereavement. I've usually said childbearing is specifically meant for women. They cannot be lectured on anything on that. So what I'm saying here is leave what belongs to certain people to them and don't try to do it yourself. So it's wise for us to then save towards bereavement with assurance houses. And I've recommended one, which is Diaspora Insurance, which I've said trades also as Destined Finance. It could be of interest to know who Diaspora Insurance is. I've always maintained that before marrying anyone, you basically need to know what kind of person this person you are marrying is, which was the role that usually was left to aunties to identify the weaknesses and strengths in a partner that you intend to marry. So we are saying, because I've recommended Diaspora Insurance, you then need to know who these are before you go to bed with them or before you choose to go to bed with them. So Diaspora Insurance is an assurance company based in the UK. It is headquartered in Birmingham, and it has been in operation since 2012. and therefore it has over a decade of delivering peace of mind to the diasporan community throughout the world. It is a company that is registered with the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK. And let me dwell a bit on this issue of registration. It's very, very important. And I've repeated the word very there. It's very, very important to deal with companies that are registered, because should anything happen, you have a track record of where you may find these companies or where you may report your case. So registration formalizes a company. I'm saying this because there are so many unregistered entities operating as burial societies, and the history we have about burial societies, much as I cannot say all of them, but the history we have is that they have failed to live to expectations when, for example, they are faced with multiple deaths to which they need to take care of one by one of those. In some cases, burial societies have abused clients' monies. I know one very well, the Blawayo Women of Virtue, a burial society that came to light on buying the executive members each a house back home, and when they were required to pay claims, they failed to do so. That's one disadvantage of not being registered. I know of Madzimai Akatendeka, where the chairman disappeared with over 100,000 of clients' monies, and until today, they have not managed to recover that. So registration then becomes very important. So for Diaspora, you realize that yes, they are registered. They have their risk portfolio underwritten by Guard Risk, and they are reinsured by Africa Re. Africa Re is a big reinsurance company coming from an African setup where over 32 African countries came together to create that reinsurance company. And it is worth so much in terms of its net worth. So the association by Diaspora with these companies simply reflects on their financial muscle to say it's a financially sound organization that has the capacity to pay claims. I have been following closely the history of their CEO, Jeff Madzingo, who in this past year, 2024, was awarded twice for being one of the top African entrepreneurs operating in the UK. And as for Diaspora, they have so far paid over £6 million in claims to their clients all over the world. Yes, whilst we celebrate 6 million, or we look at 6 million as an achievement in terms of payment of claims, we can also look at it as proof that people are dying, because 6 million is a lot of money. And if people are dying, we then need to make sure that we are prepared. Diaspora operates or works with 20 African countries that it covers. So it's covering nationalities in the diaspora from 20 African countries. And these countries, I'll point them out. I'll start with Zimbabwe because Diaspora when it was formed in 2012, it was dealing with Zimbabwe. But they have since expanded to cover Namibia, to cover Malawi, Kenya, Sierra Leone, Ivory Coast, Cameroon, South Africa, Swaziland, Mozambique, Uganda, Gambia, Ghana, Ethiopia, Botswana, Zambia, Tanzania, DRC, Rwanda, and Nigeria. And they are still on a drive to recruit more countries. And many countries are actually knocking to enter this network. What do they do? Yes, we have known who they are, we have known where they operate, but we would want also to know what they do. They are a company that pays out cash in case of bereavement for members covered, irrespective of where they are. And they cover people who are below 75 years of age on entry. And in the diaspora, people have a chance to choose among the plans that Diaspora offers. The minimum cover that someone can secure in the Diaspora is £5,000, which grows to 10 to 15, reaching £20,000 is the maximum someone can take. Back home, we cover people for 2,500 and a maximum of £5,000. These covers allow someone to pick on a cover that suits your pocket. I know 5,000 may not be enough to do everything required in a funeral, which occurs in the diaspora. But I can tell you that it is a good starting point. And when you have 5,000, it will be easier to look for money to add onto that one. So you can actually pick from 5 to 20. But my recommendation would be to say, we live or we survive to live. But in the process of surviving, death comes by. So we don't need to put all resources towards preparing for death, but at least we need to have a basic cover. But depending on affordability, someone can take 10, can take 15, can take 20. The claims which clients make with Diaspora are settled within 48 hours on the provision of the required documents. Let me dwell briefly on what is required to lay a claim with Diaspora Insurance. You would need official documents like the burial order. You would need the doctor's report, the burial order or the doctor's report, or a police report, or the death certificate if it is there. So it's burial order, police report, hospital report, or death certificate. Then you will also need the ID of the deceased and the ID of the claimant. simple and straightforward, then your claim would be settled in less than 48 minutes, in 48 hours, sorry for that. I've often seen claims being settled even earlier, 1 hour, 2 hours, and there are testimonies on that from the different clientele base all over the world. So, Diaspora can even go an extra mile to do live streaming of the funerals. Diaspora can even create the programs for the funeral, and they can even engage service providers to assist clients with services. So basically, that's what Diaspora Insurance do. And one may want to know, what are the benefits of these covers? Should we take 5,000? Should we take 10? What are the benefits? Once I have the policy, what can I say is that which I can define as a benefit? The benefits are very simple. You will have a guaranteed immediate cash cover should bereavement strike. It's one thing to be mourning because someone has died, and it's a different thing altogether to be mourning because there's no money. So let's avoid double mourning and concentrate on mourning for the deceased whilst we have the resources. There are a lot of pathetic stories that I have personally come across where someone dies and there's not even any cent. Because one thing with bereavement is it usually comes when there's no money. I don't know what kind of matrix is that, but that's one thing I've seen more often, to say it comes when there is no money. I can even cite here an example of my own experience where I lost someone very important when I had actually tried to save that person by using all the resources that I had. And by the time that the person died, I had no money at all. Luckily, which I may not want to define as luck again, because it was out of my own preparedness. I had a policy of £5,000, which assisted me so well to a point where the funeral almost turned into a wedding because we could provide everything that the people wanted. So, guaranteed immediate cash cover, no medicals are required on entry. It gives you peace of mind knowing very well you are covered. Premiums don't increase once one becomes a member. And the cover is worldwide with no borders. You can go to Canada, you can go to America, to New Zealand, you can go to any point you want in the world, and you still enjoy your cover. For accidental death, once one premium is received, people are covered. Should anything happen, you will be covered there and then. I remember there was a case of one lady, I will not mention names here, who was involved in an accident somewhere in Leeds. And she had paid 104 pounds within the 3 months that she had been on the policy, and she was paid 15,000. So that's immediate accidental death cover. And lastly is you have the flexibility to choose what you want to do with the cash on hand, whether I want cremation, whether I want burial, whether I want repatriation. It's up to you, because you will be having the money to do what you want. Then I'm moving on to my last slide on why we should look at the cash cover as the best cover. We are now transnational citizens. I've spoken about this in the first opening remarks there, to say we are now people who move around the world looking for greener pastures. Today we can be in Canada, tomorrow we can be in New Zealand, the next day we are in Australia. And by virtue of us being transnational citizens, money can be the best thing that can meet our death factor needs. Yes, people can talk of services. I'm not saying services are bad. They are actually very good and complementary at times to cash payouts. Services are, however, good for specific locations. But for people who move from one point to the other and to the other, money can be the best. If you have service products, you can consider adding the cash cover, because money cannot be substituted in any funeral. And also, some deaths are very tricky and may not need services. Imagine the Malaysian airline disappearing with over 300 members on board. Don't you think cash could have assisted better than services, especially against the background that even today, 11 years later or 12 years later, no one knows what happened to those people? I also personally had an experience that was similar to that one. You remember Cyclone Idai in Chipinge, which swept a number of people into the Indian Ocean. Unfortunately, my brother's son lost the wife and 3 children. One survived because he had been given to another woman to say, please help me. But when the floods came, the wife and 3 children were washed away. And as I speak today, we don't even know where they are. And imagine we had service, we had a service product to assist us in that funeral. So we were left really wondering what to do, whether to get the coffins for what when the people were not there. So you find that cash can solve those issues easily. With that one, I actually can claim that I've come to the end of my discussion, and I will be happy to leave you with my contact details I'm reachable on +44 7961 431 777. I'll repeat that. +44 7961 431 777. I also use my SA number +27 69 54 54 717. +27 69 54 54 717. I thank you so much. Let me then open this discussion to the floor for contributions, for questions, for answers, and anything. Thank you so much.
What an enlightening presentation. So enlightening and also thought-provoking. And we have got to open the chat box. You can put your comments in the chat box. You can ask questions, and so that we engage Dr. Matiza. I will take the privilege as the host to ask him the first question. Dr. Matiza.
Yes, sir.
What inspired you to start speaking so openly about especially about death, especially within the diaspora community?
Interesting. Like I said in my introductory remarks, whether we like death or we don't like it, that does not stop it from happening. And sure, I know this is a sacred area where people don't want to speak about it so openly. But whether we speak about it or we don't speak about it, people still die. And unfortunately, I have had experiences with diaspora death where people can stay as dead bodies in mortuaries for over 3 months, for over 6 months, because people are struggling with resources. It's so sad, to have someone in the mortuary for 6 months because we can't handle that. So that's what I have met. And that meeting with those situations has really brought me to think that we need to speak about this openly, disregarding the sacredness that is usually associated with the death institution.
Wow. And I know you have mentioned that a lot of people avoid discussing Pachona Toruti Rufu. And why do you think this topic is still a taboo, even among the so-called educated and well-traveled, like ourselves? I'm scared as well.
Okay. I hear you. I understand you. We are, as people, usually a product of our own socialization. The food we eat, the way we dress, the beliefs we have, the traditions we have comes from the way we have been socialized. And it's very difficult for humanity to part ways with how they were socialized. you are well traveled, Misha. But should I say to you, do you eat donkey meat? Besides shaking your head vehemently, you might even fight me. But are there no people who eat donkey meat? They are there. I don't want to talk about them as a nation, but it's some kind of delicacy to other people because that's how they were socialized. Dogs makes delicacy food in China. I've heard so because they were socialized that way. So the way we were socialized ourselves is where we look at death as a sacred topic. And usually we don't disassociate ourselves with the way we are socialized, even if it means we are widely traveled, or even if it means we interact with different other cultures. So death remains a taboo even to people who are widely traveled, though they know whether we talk about it or not, it's still something that is bound to happen.
Wow. I wanted to bring home some practical solutions here. Yeah, you highlighted the high cost of a death, particularly in the diaspora.
Mhm.
Uh, can you give maybe a real life example of
Mhm.
how unpreparedness? I think you mentioned it earlier when you said
Mhm.
sometimes someone will remain in the mortuary for weeks, and
Mhm.
I think that also comes with the cost of feeding the people who are mourning. And do you
Mhm.
have a real life experience that you can share with our viewers?
Um, I will tell you of a very sad story that has been on my hands since the 10th of April, and we have done the burial today. This has been on my hands. I don't want to mention names. I don't want to mention nationalities, but I will tell you that someone was involved in an accident on the 10th of April, and the burial took place today. And like I'm saying, this is something that was on my hands because I'm so related to that person. So a scenario where we have someone in the mortuary for a month and 13 days, where people tried to GoFundMe, and from the GoFundMe, they only managed to raise possibly 5,100 when the service in the UK itself needed something like 8,000. So this is a real thing that has just come to pass today. The burial was around 10 UK time and it was done. So I'm looking at these things. Not only that, I know of a case where one nurse died in USA where he was working for a prison hospital in California. I remember it was on the 30th of June when he passed on. And when I checked, end of June, for the 15,000 that was required, only 6,000 had been raised through GoFundMe. He then went on into the whole of July, where they managed 8,000 USD. And it went on into the month of August, where they settled for around 12,000. And it was only in September that the body was taken back to Zim where the old mother, very, very old, was waiting to say, what is going to become of my son? Unfortunately, this guy had just filed divorce papers with the wives, and he was in charge of two young boys, 15 and 12. So it was really a sad scenario to have someone 4 or 5 months in the mortuary because he was not prepared. And then the premiums that we are talking about here are not that very expensive. To have a 15,000 cover, if you are around 30 years, you are talking of paying around 12 to 14 pounds for that cover. So it's money that can be spent without even blinking. But it's only that people, like we have said, don't want to talk about death. And they will say, when it happens, those who are behind will see what they can do, which is very unfair. Which is very unfair. Thank you, Mr. Meja. Yeah, on mute.
You just hammer it hard, Dr. Matiza. Yesterday, I went for lunch, and my lunch was around 20 pounds. And you are just saying for a premium of between 12 and 14,000, someone can have a lump sum that is to the tune of 15,000. I think let's put our priorities right when it comes to considering our future plans. Um, what are the most common misconception people make about funeral insurance and cash cover policies?
A brilliant question. Usually, what people do is to then think that when they are paying for a funeral cover, it's like they are saving money. Because you often get questions like, so if I come out of the policy, are you going to refund me? Or questions like, if death does not occur for the next 10 years, do I have a cashback? Or to say, if I live up to 80 years, how much would I have paid you guys? You see, so it's so unfortunate that people tend to look at a funeral plan as a saving vehicle. So we need to clear this myth. We need to clear this misconception to say, because there are facilities like accidental death benefit, to say, if you pay me 20 pounds today and you are involved in an accident tomorrow, when you said you want 15,000, we will pay you 15,000, or the assurer will pay you 15,000. So where does the 14,980 pounds come from? You have paid us 20 pounds. We are paying you for 15,000 pounds. What that means, Mr. Major, is to then say the company is using money that is coming from anyone else who is contributing in this pot. So to what we are saying is your 20 pounds has worked. This is why we want another 20 pounds next month. So it's a misconception to think that a funeral cover is a saving vehicle. Also, it's a misconception.
Yes, there's always space, yeah.
It's also a misconception to think that we are going to live as long as we want. Death is death is a tricky customer. Death is a tricky customer. Unlike your cars in the garage, which you know you have 3, or unlike your suits in the wardrobe, which you know you have 10, or unlike your money in the bank, that you know you have 2,000 pounds, you will never know how much time is with you on this universe. It can be 100 years, it can be 50 years, but it can also be 1 second. And death can be tomorrow. So by virtue of the fact that we don't know when death strikes, we just need to be prepared. So people have this myth to think in terms of the longest time that they expect to stay on earth. To say, suppose I reach 80. Yes, that's a supposition. How about if you don't reach tomorrow? What do you have in place? So death is a trick customer, like I'm saying, and the best way we can handle it, now that we cannot stop it, is just to be prepared. Mr. Misha.
Thank you very much. So it's preparation, preparation, preparation.
Yes.
Now, I know you have got the people in in the diaspora,
Mhm.
and as well. So it's the death is it's a taboo. Do you think the diaspora communities might be beginning to shift their mindset when it comes to preparedness, or is it still is there still resistance to think about it? Just put it in the back in the back.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that question. Yes, there has generally been a positive shift in the way people are seeing deaths in the diaspora, associated with experiences that they encounter, where every day there are GoFundMe please from people, 3 or 4 people asking for money for repatriation. People have really begin to see the need of looking at death like we look at life. To then say, if I'm not living, it means I could be dead. And if I am not prepared, it means I could be the one on the GoFundMe platform next time. So yes, there has been a positive shift towards accepting that insurance is more important in the diaspora than it was back at home. I'm looking at someone who dies in Harare and needs to be buried in Murewa. Less than 500 US dollars can be enough to do that. But talk of it happening to someone here, 8,100.3 miles from Harare. And how much money should we come up with to do the repatriation? So, yes, people are seeing that. but muchishona tinoti vana vembwa havasvinure vese zuva rimwe chete. Nyange waberekwa zuva rimwe chete iroro, you find kuti umwe anosvinura nhasi, umwe anosvinura mangwana, umwe anosvinura kuswera mangwana, umwe anotofa asati asvinura. So we are saying this is a very important topic which people are beginning to share amongst themselves, and consequently there has been a positive shift, but we still want it to be more than it is as of now. Don't worry about varungu vari muno, vari kumba kwavo vanhu ivava. Isusu ndisi tisiri kumba kwedu, ndisi tiri kufanirwa kuziva kuti zvikanzi chachaya tinopinda dambudziko. Ende hapana chinhu chinonyadzisa seichocho. Kunzi anga ari 15, 16, 20 years kuUK, but honai. Or even ukanga une policy inokuendesa kumba, uchisvika vanenge vachishorobodza bhokisi racho because panenge pasina chekudya, panenge pasina chii. Haungosvika nekuigwa chete ka, unotomboaseswa kunzi anga akamira sei, varuda hwahwa vachitomwa, varuda kudya nenyama. They want to see things. So expectations from us as diasporians are very high.
Yeah, I think matsanangura nyaya yecash, and the cash can be used in various ways. Tinomboona vanhu vanosvika pamusha pangori nekamba kehuswa hapana pekuningira. I think kana une cash unogona kuhaya tende wotota vanhu votoita pekupinda.
Kana kutoudza mabhiridha uine cash kuti ndoda kusvika ipapo imba yamira. Iwo zvavanoda imari kati. Yeah, when you pay them, they can do it.
Yeah, they sure. And I think, as you said, kuti vana vembwa vasvinure musumwa chete, and they choose to say Champions Network TV. Tikuitawo chikamu chedu chekuti tinounza ana matiza vachiuya vachikuudzai kuti vediwe gadzirirai, hamuzivi musi unonaya mvura. And maudziwa unzanzi rufu icustomer iri so tricky. Hauzoti inoya rini. Haugona kuita marketing structure yekuziva kuti macustomer angu ana rufu anoya in which format, in which years, but vanongouya chero. Which is very enlightening.
Musati maenda pamberi vamhizha, regai ndishare this testimony yandainzwa namufundisi wangu when I was still in Zimbabwe. Mufundisi wangu aigara achitaura kuti hatimbozivi musi nenguva kana takatarisana nenyaya dzerufu. Aigara achitipa this example. According to him, anoti paive nemumwe murume who was a rich man. He had everything that he wanted to himself. Talk of houses, talk of cars, talk of animals, talk of gold, everything he had, but he did not have a family. So aigara nemusenzi wake vari two. Then this lord, this master, this rich man said no, achiudza musenzi wake, shamari, mari yangu yawanda panapa, ndiri kuda kuti ndimboenda ndimbonoidya to a very far away country. Ndichadzoka inini, but time yandodzoka handitombozivi, asi inini ndiri kudzoka. Saka iwewe panapa ndiwe wandiri kusiya uri in charge of everything. Ita zvaunoda nezvinhu zvese zviri panapa. ndezvako kusvika musi wandinodzoka. So musenzi uyu aida kufadza master wake achiti pavanodzoka vanofanirwa kuona kuti handina kumboita zvisina musoro, I have not been extravagant, I have actually been a good and caring person. Akagara agogara master havangauyi. Zvokutanga kutofunga kuti murume uyu achadzoka here, but akaitawo zvaaigona pakudya upfumi hwanga uripo pamba apa, asi hwanga usingaperi. Asi nemumwe musi pamba apa paive nembwa dzaivepo dziri 3 very important dogs dzaimubatsira kuchengeta property master. And master aida 1 imbwa paimbwa idzi zvakanyanyisa. Imbwa iyoyo aiida zvakanyanyisa, even kutodarika musenzi wake uyu. So one day musenzi akamuka achiona imbwa yakafa, inodiwa yacho iyoyo. And he looked at it and said, oh, come on, maindoita sei? Apa master havasati wauya. Master would have been happier dai imbwa iyi yafa aripo. But okay, ndobva no, I have a plan. Chirega ndiwige imbwa iyi sekuiga kwatinoita vanhu. Anditi. Asi ndasirira something very important, instruction yakataurwa namaster. Master vakati ndiri kuenda ndodzoka, asi pandinodzoka chandinoona wakabata iwewe ndicho chako ichocho. Zvimwe zvese ndezvangu. Asi chandasvika wakabata is what belongs to you. So muchinda afunga zvekuiga imbwa, akachera guva rake zvakanaka-naka, akati regai ndiiwiga apa. Master wakauya ndinotaura kuti imbwa ndakaiwiga apa. Ndida kunyora date of birth yaro, ndida kunyora date of death, zvese ndonyora paguva ipapa. Tinoiti epitaph. Atora imbwa iyayi aruda kuti regai ndichinyatsoigadzika handingaikande. And paanga akaibata akanzwa izwi ramaster wake richiti James. And achichuka akaona zveshuwa ndiwo master apa akabata imbwa yakafa. You see, saka musi unoya rufu, musi unoya musiki, hapane nekuti wakabata chii, you will go. And hapane nekuti wakabata chii. Saka tiri kuti heno inguva yekuti sasvikirwe takabata imbwa yakafa. Heno inguva yekuti tigadzirire tiri vapenyu kuti tisvikirwe. Takatonamata kudhara, tiri vanhu vanoziva Mwari, tiine makavha edu. That's what should make us different from people home. Hatingauye kunoku kunotadza kudzidza zvinhu zviri contemporary.
Zvakaoma, ndosaka zvichinzanzi panoudzwa vana vamambo iwe muranda dii.
Chibvateerera uipa.
Chibvateerera, ndatoteererawo ndatobata.
Because hauna nguva yauchaadhireswa, mamba anoadhiresa vana wake chete.
Hatichiendai manje, takuda kuenda kuti tichienda tichizonopendera pamutambo wedu. Ongochinakidza, munofunga taigona kutoita sondo rese
tichitaura hongu.
Ngatiti pane muteereri akateerera ari kufunga kuti saka otangira papi nekuda kwokuti maoptions emapolicies akawanda. Anotangira papi?
Maita basa vamhizha nemubvunzo iwoyo. Muchaona kuti tichitanga tameka sure kuti taisa nhamba idzo dziri pazasi dzatati call in iyo nhamba iyo. Then kwekupedzisira kwediscussion yedu taisa nhamba 2 idzo. Panhamba idzodzo muteereri anouya kuWhatsApp auya kuWhatsApp tinotangira ipapo, tinotoengenjana, possibly taifanirwa kuisa email zvakare ipapo, because vamwe vanoda kuti vaite reach out through email. Regai ndikupei email yacho Wamizha, yekuti vanhu vanoita reach out, tobatsirana kubva ipapo tichiona kuti zvingafambe sei. Saka munhu kana auya kuWhatsApp, chinenge chaakudiwa ndechekuti iyeye munhu anenge achiziva vanhu vake vaari kuda kukavha. Ini ndiri kuda kukavha mudzimai wangu nevana vangu muno mudiaspora, back home toda kukavha mai wangu nababa wangu, as long as vari below 75 years of age on entry, tinovatora tovakavha, tovapa umbrella iyoyo. Protection iyoyo yakakosha, because what we are saying is munhu anoshaya kuZimbabwe kunombonzi zigi, konzi RTGS, konzi bond. Ukasvika ikoko kunenge kune confusion, wotoudzwa nzi zigi racho raunaro unotosungwa ukada kurichinja mustreet umu, saka unobva washaya kuti zviri kufamba sei. Saka kana uine kapolisi kako kehard currency kuno, unongosvika uchiita tunhu twako as you are being expected to, because vanenge vachitokuexpect. Then let's look at my Gmail address. In small caps, it's JO. In small caps, it's JO HA NNES. That's Johannes. Let's use this one. Siya Johannes siya haripo. Ngatitange namatiza.
Taisa matiza kwekutanga here kana kuti tiri kubva taisa
kwekutanga matiza.johannes @gmail.com. matiza.johannes@gmail.com. So people can reach out using that one. Munoda imwe here Wamizha?
Rega timbovasiya vaine iyoyi ndiyo yatinovarakidza.
Alright, it's okay.
Ndo email address yaMatiza iyo.
Yes.
Toenderera mberi, mumwe mubvunzo uripo, just to wind up, ndewe kungoti ko obviously machitaura but munoda kungoti tingozvitsinidzira, are there any age limits pakujoina the diaspora insurance?
Thank you. Hongu ndiyo minduro yacho. Tinoti isisu mudiaspora munhu ane 15 years anokwanisa kuzviitira polisi yake. Kunosvika pamunhu age next birthday 75. Tomboti nhasi ndiri 23. Munhu ari kutena 75 mangwana 24. Tinomutarisira kuti akafona akati ndinoda kutopinda izvozvi, ndinoda kupinza baba vangu, tinovatora baba ivavo because havasati watena 75. Saka tiri kuti age next birthday 75 tinotora. Ukange wapa polisi, even ukasvika hako 90 hapana anokubvisa ipapo because wakapinda before 75. Izvizvi regai ningotsanangura vanhu vanyatsonzwisa. Ndinoziva pane vari kudokwaira kuda kundibvunza kuti why muchiita izvozvo. Izvi it's a common practice kuma-insurance company ese, because vanotarisa yavanoti risk profile yeclient yega yega. Vakatarisa vanoona kuti nemiwo mukatoenda pademographic presentation yeZimbabwe muchaona kuti it's very narrow at the top and very wide at the base. Izvozvo zvinoreva kuti vashoma vanosurvivor kumusoro ikokoko. Saka tinenge tichiti sekambani tiri kuchengeta mari dzevanhu. Pana matiza.johannesmasia@gmail.com.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Saka tinenge tichiti isusu sekambani basa redu kumaneja mari dzevanhu. Mari dzatiri kumaneja idzi dzinomanejeka nekuona kuti taita a rate kana kuti yatinoti claim settlement ratio iri palatable. Hazvibatsire kuti tore vanhu vane 75 years vari 1000 tovapinza imomo vese vari 1000 within the next 2 years vanenge vaclaima. It means we are jeopardizing that pot. Ende munhu ane 15 years ari imomo gore raanozoda kuclaima munenge musina mari. So tinoita ka-screening ikapo. It's a very common practice in insurance inoitwa underpin the explanation yandabva kuitai yekuti tinenge takuti iwewe wakuonawo risk yacho iwewe semunhu kuti baba vakukura ka, saka hatisi kuda kuti upushire risk iyoyo kwatiri, iwe watoionawo. Tinenge toda kuti umake a decision paine time kuti tinge tiri tese for a longer time. Isi hatifariri kuti vanhu vafe, tinofarira kuti vanhu vararane.
Pane mubvunzo vari kuna part ngati SIPS ndowatiudza kuti ndasiya 8. Okay, all right, that's fine.
All right.
Okay, then maybe kuna vakateerera kana muine mubvunzo mobvunza. Ndisati ndapa vamatiza kuti vatipe kuvhara mutambo. Saka vamatiza nokutendai nekuuya paChampions Network TV muchitaura pamusoro pemusoro wenyaya which is core pakurarama kwedu, asi tese tinoramba tichingounzvenga. Inini I'm not an exception. Ndatodzidzawo zvakawanda sekutaura kwendiita kuti muranda panorayirwa vana vamambo ivawopo. Munogona kunge mauya muchida kurayira vakateerera, asi ini dzangu nzeve ndenge ndakadini
makavhura
ndakavhura dzose dziri mbiri. As a final call to action, is there one thing you want every viewer to take away from your message today? What would that be?
Thank you. That will be preparedness. That will be preparedness. Preparedness is a product of serious introspection. It is a product of looking at oneself and say, should this happen, what will I do? like I've said, it's very irresponsible to be asking for other people, vanhu vasiri wana mai vako, kuti vakutakurire mutoro wako iwewe, just because iwewe you are not prepared. That's the highest level of irresponsibility which we cannot live with here in the diaspora. To be seen going or opening a GoFundMe page, it's a sign that we have failed to introspect on ourselves, and a sign that we have failed to be prepared. Sekutaura kwandaita muchishona muparable yangu yemurume nembwa, ngatiwanikei tiri prepared. Musi unouya rufu haumbozikanwi kuti nderini. Ini ndiri kutaura pano, munomuka mangwana makunzi zvipi wamatiza wakazokolapsa, kana kuti wachingobva ipo paya was involved in an accident. That's what it is like. So, ladies and gentlemen, my last words to you is, let's be prepared. Let's find assurance houses that can help us to prepare. Let's not bank on saying, ndinoshandisa ma-savings angu. Like I have said, it's unwise economically. So let's be prepared. And when we are prepared, we will enjoy peace of mind. So preparedness, 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 preparedness. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Amatiza. Munondirangaridza ndaiva nemurairidzi wangu pataidzidza engineering, aitidzidzisa zvekudrowa izvi. Saka aiti engineer ane maqualities matatu: discipline, discipline, discipline. Saka vateereri, sezvamangozvinzwa zvitaurwa naVamatiza, vanzi let's be prepared. Let's look back and assess ourselves kuti kana rufu rwasvika pamusikova wangu ndichaita sei. Kuzoona takuenda kuGoFunding, hanzi aiwa makoniwa kuronga upenyu hwenyu. Zvikanzi let's prepare, let's prepare, let's prepare. Vakataura vakati we live, but in the process of living we may die. So let's prepare for both. If we are to live, how do we fund our living, our retirements? If we are to die, let's prepare for the eventuality. So in any case, we still need to prepare. And usazotarisira kuti vana vamwe vakutakurire mutoro wako. Gadzirira. Hanzi varungu vari kumusha kwavo, but ukaenda vane mapolicies avo ekuti to the later, kuti nyangwe program utichamira sei. Saka let's prepare, let's prepare, let's prepare. So thank you for joining us on Champions Network TV. And thank you, Mr. Matiza, for being with us. And this is the beginning, but not the end. You shall always be a permanent feature on Champions Network TV. So thank you so much.